There we go. But yes, I am so happy to have everyone here today. It's a big day in my neighborhood. Most kids went back to school this morning, and it kind of feels like the floodgates have been opened to knock off to-do list and big things. But I'm super excited just to start it with a presentation. So let me check my time. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. If you don't mind to mute yourself, that would be really helpful. Oh, shoot, I'm going the wrong way. And then at the end, again, there'll be Q&A. And if you have to hop off, certainly put a question in the chat, and I'll be sure to answer it as the presentation wraps up. So I have a lot of material I've added to this talk, this presentation, and then enhanced it more. So timing might get tight. I will talk quickly, I tend to, but tons of information. I will have 2 resources emailed to you after I have the recording saved down. That will be really helpful as well. So after today's call, if you're here, I will email you the recording. I will email you resources, and again, a copy of the presentation. So let's get this party started. If you're ready, I'm ready, and hopefully we'll have more and more people trickle in. But I adjusted the title of this presentation, and it's What's Wellness Hack is Being Underutilized. And there's not enough, it's becoming more popular, but there's not enough attention on blood sugar balance. And yes, I've been a type 1 diabetic for 33 years, most of the life I know. But blood sugar dictates everything from sex hormone balance. You know, many of us are female on this call and part of the recording, and many of us are over the age of 35. And 35 is known as the second puberty. And how well our hormones are balanced are related to blood sugar control and stress. Blood sugar ability is a prediction of disease and longevity. So let's figure out what we can do in a realistic way on a daily basis to live our best, highest quality of life. And I do really believe, with the thousands of people I have helped, coached, or presented to in audiences, that our blood sugar needs are as unique as our fingerprint. So I do want to kick off with a disclaimer. I'm going to give you unconventional tips on blood sugar control, management, and just education, but certainly work with your practitioner on your unique needs and take this information as information, not your recommendations overall. So I'm going to kick us off with kind of going into an untraditional route, and it's just a comment and an emphasis on that your health history is not your fault. Your high or low blood sugars are not your fault. And your lack of knowing that heart healthy cereal actually is pretty inflammatory with the high omega-6 corn in it, that's not your fault. Not wanting to exercise after a long day of work and all the things, it's not your fault. We live in America, and expectations are really high, and pressure is often present, and temptations are left and right. Make sure you're calibrating your expectations, and make sure you're really loving yourself, giving yourself compassion and grace, because often the biggest pressure, the highest expectations are coming internally. But no, whatever your health story is right now, it's not your fault. We live in a society that doesn't set us up for easy health and nutrition. You know, even comparing America to Europe, from Europe to Australia, where I lived for 2 years, I had a whole lot easier time living in Australia and had culture shock coming home. But just know it's not your fault. And as I go into this information today, give yourself compassion of where you are, but also inspiration of where you can go. Diabetic or not, 90% of Americans have daily blood sugar spikes on a daily basis. And this is symptomatic to fatigue, feeling tired all the time, waking up not rested, mood swings, or even anxiety, like low levels, weight gain, and overall disease. Metabolic health is measured by these 5 points, and a study from just a few years ago pointed out only 1 in 8 Americans actually have optimal blood sugar glucose, which is less than 105. So someone won't be diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes until their fasting blood sugar is 120. But metabolic health, you know, there's these functional ranges, and that's where I really focus with clients, focus with my health and family. And daily average glucose is ideally should be below 100. And for a measure of metabolic health, it should be lower than 105. Triglycerides is done when someone's getting a lipid panel, and you want your triglycerides less than 150. and you want them optimally less than 90. I will pass out. I'm going to make myself a little note here. I didn't have this in my thought process to send you, but I do have a functional lab document that I send to all my clients. So I'll be sure to send you guys that, just making a note real quick here. And there's a slide I have on here about it too. Additionally, high density lipoprotein, this is your cholesterol values. Blood pressure is the fourth measure of metabolic health. And then waist circumference ratio. So I have a lot of clients who are like, how much should I weigh? What should be my goal weight? And I never really give a number. It's rather more so body fat percentage and waist circumference to your hip ratio. So for women, you want to be below 35 inches. And then for men, it's 40. So symptoms of moving blood sugars. Maybe you're like, well, Kelly, I'm not type 1 diabetic like you, but I'm interested in this blood sugar thing because I see all this stuff on social media. But what are the big symptoms? Do you carry weight in your midsection? Just going back to that last bullet point in metabolic health. Do you wake up nightly around 2 or 3 a.m.? Yes, this can absolutely be blood sugar control. This can also be hormone imbalance, like an imbalance of your progesterone to estrogen and testosterone. Women have testosterone too. And it can also be related to stress. So that can be a number of things there, but certainly blood sugar control, moodiness. Insulin moves with other hormones. So as your cortisol or epinephrine and norepinephrine, I'm getting my words tongue-tied, your stress hormones fluctuate, so does your insulin levels, and they move together. Being hangry, if you can't go between your meals more than 4 hours, which isn't very known, and average recommendations from many health advice we get, it can be a sign that your blood sugar is dropping too low before that 4-hour mark of your next meal. If we're not training twice a day, and if we're not necessarily growing, we don't need to snack. 3 meals is far better than 6 meals for most people, and some people need 1 snack. But we do not need breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, bed. It's optimal to have more anchored meals. And if you have symptoms of being hangry, there's an opportunity to figure out what we can do with your diet and lifestyle to improve blood sugar balance so that hangriness can be more diluted. Tiredness, fatigue, I had mentioned that, blurry vision. I got on an insulin pump in 2002, which feels like the ice ages. And I remember my eye doctor, because 10 years prior, I had type 1 diabetes. He said, I can tell by the time you got on an insulin pump, your blood sugars have been more consistent. And he could tell that in my vision. Not only did I read better, but the health of my eyes looked better. And most optometrists can see type 2 diabetes in their patients' eyes before they actually have a diagnosis. So our vision has a lot to do with our blood sugar control. I've mentioned anxiety already a few times. Frequent headaches. Headaches can be a swing in blood sugars. Brain fog, skin tags is a big one. Around your neck or even anywhere on the body, skin tags are related to insulin resistance. And also gum health, dental health is very much related to our blood sugar levels. So here's just a non-diabetic range of goals. Maybe you're like, oh, I just went to a doctor and got my blood sugar tested, or, oh, I'm thinking about putting on a CGM and seeing what that does. Metabolic health was below 105. Your blood sugar, your fasting blood sugar be lower than 105, but an optimal sweet spot, beautiful blood sugar on a daily basis would be below 85. Telling someone with type 1 diabetes that on a daily basis, your blood sugar should be below 85 would be a harsh reality. This is not exactly something I would tell someone with type 1 diabetes. But these are just optimal, very functional, healthy blood sugar ranges where your blood sugars don't swing more than 30 to 40 points. 2 hours after a meal, you want it to be below 140 and back to baseline overall. So some people are like, well, give me some numbers. So that's why this slide is here. But overall, conventional methods, we'll talk to managing blood sugar just with diet, exercise, and medication. And these are very important. And they're a big part of the puzzle piece, but there's so much more we can involve in a holistic, integrative nutrition way. Overall, my why. This is a picture of me in high school, shortly after I got my insulin pump, but there's a picture of my dad. And when I was a senior in high school, he was a type 1 diabetic and withheld information from me and my 3 other siblings. I'm one of 4. to protect us from worrying too much. But he was in kidney failure. And I woke up for school one day and my mom told me we were going to go to the hospital instead. And he got a transplant. And that was a really long day. And I'm one of 4 of Irish twins. All my siblings were at college. And literally within those hours of sitting in the waiting room for 10 hours, I decided I want no little girl or father to ever be in this position of not knowing how to take better of their health by just following the rules of, old medicine, old insulin, to take care of you. And I wanted to prevent this situation from anyone. So on that day, February 5th, 2002, I decided I wanted to be a dietitian. And my fire is lit only brighter to help bring to the masses of what simple little things we can do on a daily basis to overall feel better for those of us with type 1 diabetes, but for those of us who just need better blood sugar management or overall health. So just a little story on sharing my why, and my dad's a huge part of that. And he's still living today. That was 2002. A lot of transplants weren't said to last longer than 10 years. And while his health is a little fragile, I feel ever so grateful for those who are organ donors and that he's still here. This is part of my document that I'm going to send to each of you. It's just the functional lab goals. So a lot of doctors will say, okay, I want to do your physical labs this year. Or if you have a chronic condition and you see a specialist, maybe it's every 4 months or so. They might say, okay, and they just look for those higher lows or get notifications from the lab of highs or lows. And the ranges are often quite big. Ranges from functional labs from a university tend to be averages of those getting labs done. And people who get labs done are often looking for something or managing something. So there's these functional ranges, and there's these functional ranges that we're educated on with training in integrated and functional medicine for us to strive for, because this is prevention. This is not reaction to disease, it's prevention. And those you can see on here, this is not a common lab, fasting insulin. I would put money on that in the next 5 to 10 years, that fasting insulin will be a regular routine measure on a physical. And fasting insulin can be high for up to 10 years before blood sugars are chronically high or before there's signs of prediabetes. So the levels of insulin will show up first before higher blood sugars, but not enough practitioners or not enough patients know to ask for this. So that's something I certainly want to point out. And if your triglycerides are high, if you're like, oh, Kelly, I have a question at the end. My cholesterol, my triglycerides are high. Should I cut out my red meat? I would look at a number of things. And my answer most likely would be a sign of high triglycerides is often a sign of high insulin levels. So I'd first examine what abilities you have to adjust to improve blood sugar measures. But again, I will pass this along for everyone. But I'm going to jump right to it. So the 5 conventional things I think through when how to support blood sugar control short and long term come down to these 5 things. Number 1 is gut health. Our macro needs are very unique to who we are, but also our food choices are as unique as our fingerprint too. I see my picture in the background here is not a quality one. It's iStock, here nor there. But gut health is so important. I tell my clients, and I want to tell you guys today, eat food you love, but love you back. If you eat foods and then you feel indigestion, acid reflux, bloating, or like the food is just sitting in your stomach, perhaps it's something your body doesn't love. As we hit that age 35 that I've mentioned is our second puberty, we also lose our digestive enzymes, and our ability to digest things goes down with age. And the way we proportion our food needs to adjust. Protein is the most trendiest thing being talked about right now. And as we age, protein needs increase. So we need more protein than ever, even though we're not growing, but our ability to break it down and digest it decreases. And also we become more insulin resistant with age. We need that protein to help us feel satisfied and support the lost muscle mass that occurs. But make sure you're eating foods you love. Consider what your portions are like as you age. Make sure you're eating when you're hungry. It's always important to reiterate that. Hunger is okay. Hunger is healthy, just as feeling satisfied is healthy. And overall, of course, with gut health, real food is information for the body. The more processed something it is, the more inflammatory the ingredients can be to our gut bacteria. Some tips to support gut health, to support blood sugar control, to support those digestive juices is to eat 3 meals a day with at least 30 grams of protein from animal sources and plant, and to anchor those around the same time. So one thing I talk about on a daily basis with clients is anchor your meals. and try to anchor your meals with protein and try to eat protein first when you sit down for that meal. I run a program, it's called CGM with Cal, and I've had various clients go through this program and it's open enrollment. However, here or there, I had a client and he's like, oh my gosh, every day at lunch, I was pretty routine. I pack my lunch. It's always something healthy. It's something I always can control and forecast what it'll be. But I start my lunch with an apple. He did my CGM program and just changing the apple to the last thing he ate in his meal, he ate his protein first. His blood sugars improved, a non-diabetic, his blood sugars improved post-meal by 20%. So food order matters, time of the day of our food matters, and what we eat matters. Obviously, the less processed, the better. And if you feel like food is sitting in your stomach or you're getting acid reflux, maybe it's the food that your body doesn't agree with, or you might need digestive enzymes, or maybe drinking lemon water before your meal can be very helpful for your digestive health, or even having that lemon water shortly after you wake up. I have a program, Cleanse with Kel. The first thing in the program, it asks to have some lemon water and an optional cayenne pepper in there, but that kicks off the bile production. That kicks off your gallbladder waking up for the day to help with digestion. It's not what we eat. We are not what we eat. We are what we absorb. Overall, with gut health, I do promote that Cleanse with Kel because it supports the liver and the liver supports the gut. There's no organ in isolation. We need to look at our body, our health as an orchestra, and take care of things individually where we may see. Overall, with what we eat, it's as important as when we eat, and intermittent fasting is a helpful tool for blood sugar management. I always advise eat with the sun. And right now it's what, August, mid-August, and the sunlight hours are definitely different than they are deep into winter. But if you eat late, eat light, do your best to anchor those meals, have a palm-sized portion of protein at those meals, which equates to 20 to 30 grams, and try to have your protein first. Eating with sunlight hours should give you a window from your last bite of food to the next day of at least 12 hours. Some people will see more beneficial effects for blood sugar, making that window 14 hours of no calories. Some people will do worse. It depends how stressed you are. You know, 90% of diseases, 90% of mismanaged blood sugars start with stress. So you need to design a lifestyle, eat in a way that works to cater to the season you're in, the chapter you're in, overall. Interesting stat here for those with type 1 diabetes and type 2. So our gut, our large intestines holds bacteria. There's good and bad bacteria. Think of it as a raised garden bed. In my raised garden bed, I have vegetables right now and some flowers, and then I need to groom it every now and then for the weeds. The weeds are bad bacteria. The vegetables and flowers are good. A lot of Americans, a lot of us have a lot of weeds and not a lot of flowers and veggies. And research has shown those weeds produce something called LPS. People with type 1 diabetes have a 250% higher level of LPS from weeds. And that's metaphoric. And then type 2 diabetics have 65% higher levels of LPS with these weeds. So how do we accommodate this? We try to eat more whole real food. We try to support blood sugar because high blood sugar feeds those weeds sugar. And we make sure we have adequate protein and enough diverse color in our diet, to name a few. So I can give a presentation entirely on this gut health, but this is my longest slide, but hopefully you took some pearls away from there. As I mentioned, I have my CGM with Kel, my Cleanse with Kel. My favorite functional lab I have is the Wheat Zoomer. So I'm just noting it here in case this is a tool that could really help you on your health journey. And it's a finger prick test. And you put it on an index card, give or take, and you ship it to the lab. And from that, I can identify what's your susceptibility of celiac, what's your sensitivity to wheat, what's your sensitivity to gluten. How is that LPS? How are those weeds doing in your large intestines? And how leaky is your small intestines, your gut lining? So this lab is my favorite lab. So I wanted to mention it there in case that was something that interested you. So part of my 5 pillars, I didn't mention this and I'll mention it now. So just rewinding real quick. It's an acronym of GRACE. So G was gut, R is rest, A is analyze, C is carb threshold, and E is eat with the sun. Or excuse me, it's actually exercise. So our second pillar of my GRACE framework is rest. And I'll kick us off here. If it's not a hell yes, then the answer is no. You know, even if it comes to work, if someone's like, hey, I need to host a meeting, if an email is better, allow for the opportunity to turn that hour meeting into a 10-minute email. If a friend wants you to have drinks tonight because the kids are finally at school, but you know that's not working towards your health goals right now or your agenda or how you want to feel the next morning, say no. You don't have to be busy to say no. You're allowed to say no because it's not a hell yes. So I really want to emphasize that, but I'm saying it to myself too because it's so easy to overload our agenda if there's space on the calendar. Furthermore, with rest can of course be sleep. Protect your sleep, nurture your sleep, try to cater to the same bedtime as the same wake up time. That's healthy for the body to have routine, but also have downtime. Have downtime like this guy laying in the grass. And it's so healthy to look up at the sky on a daily basis. You know, when we look at sunlight, especially if it's earlier in the morning, if it's before lunchtime, that can help set up your melatonin for bed in the evening. So make sure you're looking at the sky, make sure you're having downtime and find moments to process, to breathe, to be present. Maybe that's just walking. And maybe it's a routine of waking up to walk outside to see the sunlight. Maybe it's just a moment of taking deep breaths. I mentioned the program already, the CGM with Kel program, and I have partners there. They're Thea. They help design the software to help people get the most out of monitoring their blood sugars. And my friend Boris, he's like, you know what my friend just sold? He sold a program for $4,000 to people on breathing. You know, and it's because we're not breathing enough. The average American is not taking enough deep breaths. And my favorite form of breath work is box breathing. That's when you inhale for 4, you pause, and you exhale for 4. So I think of doing that 4 times in a row with the pauses in between, imagining a box. And I often do that at night when I find myself not able to fall asleep. Oopsies, let me go back. Someone said they needed to hop off, so I will be providing a recording here. So rest is so important. Really analyze where you can slow down, what you need support with, and really measure those hell yeses and nos. Analyze. There's over 42 variables that impact blood sugar. And when I think of analyze, think of what are the big movers that you know needs the most support. Of course, get those low-hanging fruit, anchor your meals, support your sleep, hydrate, but also think through, how are you feeling? What are your symptoms of moving blood sugar, or what numbers are you seeing if you're wearing a CGM device, a continuous glucose monitor, or seeing higher blood sugar numbers at the lab? What can use adjustment? And this is unique to each person. This is what I help my clients with. And maybe the analyze is just sleep. You know, if we're sleep deprived, our insulin resistance is on a spectrum on a daily basis. If our insulin levels are chronically high, we can chronically have high insulin resistance, and it'll take more time to have that blood sugar gradually come down. But overall, insulin resistance is on a spectrum. If I sit at my desk and I have back-to-back calls all day, my insulin resistance is going to be higher by evening than it was early in the day. Versus if I was sleeping well and then all of a sudden I had 2 nights where my kids woke me up at 2 in the morning and I had really broken sleep, I'll be more insulin resistant those following days. Another easy thing to analyze is hydration. Make sure when you wake up, you take an inner bath and drink 20 ounces of water sooner or later. And overall monitor what might need analyzed. Consistency is key. You know, the best thing you can do is find a routine, large or small, that you like, can fit into your life, and be consistent with it, and see where you can add on or need to take away. But from this analyze slide, just know consistency is queen for lifestyle, for meal times, for workouts. As someone with type 1 diabetes, it's important. I have analyzed with my data, and for most of us, to exercise, have organized exercise every other day, because that organized exercise every other day will help my muscles stay insulin sensitive, especially if strength training is involved. So workouts, meal times, bedtimes. Also analyze what's alcohol. That's a big thing when I have CGMers, individuals where I'm watching their data very closely, is the impact alcohol has on insulin resistance. Often in the moment, even the day of drinking, will be fine, blood sugars will be fine, but you'll see the next day or two with gradually stubborn higher blood sugars. So alcohol is something to examine, and make sure you have a guardrail on it. You know, if you enjoy alcohol, what types is better for you, what nights are better, how many per sitting, etc. So that's unique to each of us. And lastly, that one thing I will mention here, and there's more to discuss, but what supplements can help you along? A lot of clients will say, my blood sugars, you know, I'm doing everything you're telling me, but my blood sugars are just not improving, especially the fasting blood sugar or my post-meal blood sugar. Do you need magnesium? Do you need B vitamins? Are you hydrated? Are you sleeping? Are you anchoring your meals? Are you having enough protein? Or do you need more tools like berberine? Berberine is a rather popular supplement right now, but it works on gut health. It helps kill weeds, but it also helps our body be more sensitive to insulin. Berberine is great, and I will emphasize here, it is not something to do long term. It's something intermittently to help you. So it's not like the new Ozempic or whatnot. It's something to use intermittently to help break that insulin resistance, maybe lose any joy pounds or weight that you have needed to lose. But there's supplements that can be very helpful. I had mentioned my CGM device. This is just a quote on that if you're interested in biofeedback. It's definitely a product of the future. I kind of think of it as a continuous glucose monitor is the new pedometer. I mentioned a variety of variables that impact our blood sugar, and this is something to screenshot or make sure you're following me on social media. I do reshare this quite often, but the seasons affect my blood sugar a lot. Bariatric pressure affects my blood sugars a lot. Just flying affects my blood sugars a lot. And there's so many things that go into it, and what we need to analyze individually is unique to each of us. So here's a nice list. Just think through what can you put a light on to adjust to improve overall how you're feeling or streamline blood sugar levels. My CGM program, this is just a testimonial. It was really awesome. I had this client, I'll call her Sally. Her acronym here is just SH. And Sally came to me years ago. She got pregnant in her 40s and she had gestational diabetes. She always knew blood sugar was a need. And I helped her just, balance her plate, anchor her meals, fast in a way that was appropriate, basically just between meals, for being pregnant and whatnot. And of course, helped with nutrient gaps and so forth. And then she came to me at CGM with Kel. And what we found, and her child was 4 years old, she was doing everything so active. Her blood sugar still trended high, her cholesterol trended high, and she was doing CrossFit activities. She was doing really hard workouts. She was doing it all. And what we realized is she needed to not push so hard. I said 90% of stress, and this is the CDC, the 90% of stress leads to disease. And I needed to remove some stressors, even though she loved the CrossFit workouts, even though her friends were there and it was fun. It actually was hurting her blood sugar control. So just a fun testimonial there. This is what the app looks like. And I had a question why her blood sugars were going up. Yes, cortisol was a player with this client. Let me know if I stop sharing. I'm in the chat feature, which I don't think you guys can all see, and whatnot. But that client, Sally, her cortisol levels were dysregulated, and honestly, most Americans are. And that's why fasting longer is not necessarily better. A CGM can help us identify if our blood sugars are rising without food early in the morning. It's an opportunity for us to move our fasting window closer to waking up. But yeah, she needed to not fast as much. She needed more carbohydrates in the middle of the day, that client specifically, and her workouts were too hard because her cortisol was off. And her cortisol could have been off just because she had chronically high, low-level blood sugars for quite some time. Good question. All right, I'm going to move on to our fourth pillar of grace. So we had gut health, eat foods you love you back, rest, say no to everything that's not a hell yes, analyze what in your life do you need help with. Maybe me just asking that question something pops up. And then fourthly, here we are with carb threshold. So overall, carbs are unique to the person. Our carb amount we need per day, per meal, overall is unique to our gender, to our age, to our activity level, to our insulin resistance, and so much more. So let me rewind real quick and break it down. On our plate, when we make a meal, the food on our plate makes up ratios of protein to grams of fat to grams of carbohydrate. And each meal should have all three. I don't advocate a carnivore high protein diet only. And I'm very cautious of how low carbs should go because we want to keep that garden bed nice and healthy. We want the vegetables and the flowers to grow and not too many weeds. And if we go too high protein, low carb, we're not giving those flowers and vegetables fiber to get bigger, stronger, and more abundant. But carbohydrates, one reason they have their own slide is carbs have the biggest impact on blood sugars. If I ate one of these carrots, cooked carrots would actually raise my blood sugar more than raw carrots. But if I ate one of these carrots by itself without that dripping, beautiful olive oil coming down, if I just ate a raw carrot, my blood sugar would raise faster than if I had that carrot drizzled with an abundance of olive oil. My good friend just went to Italy, and I was telling her how I saw a research study of Italians tend to have 7 tablespoons of olive oil a day, but they also tend to be some of the leanest people in the world. And she was saying that a traditional afternoon snack is a piece of toast with just gobs and gobs of olive oil on it. But those fats help slow down the breakdown of the carbohydrates, thus a breakdown of glucose going into our blood, and can turn a blood sugar spike from a black diamond into a bunny hill. Yes, carrots are not that high in carbohydrates, and they do have some good fiber and plenty of good nutrients. But when we look at things like that toast the Italians are eating, what if they had it raw? What if they're like, well, I want to watch my calories. I'm not going to have the olive oil. I'm just having the bread. I just want the bread. That blood sugar is going to spike like a black diamond versus the bunny hill. And with that, the person will have more cravings. They might feel more tired. They might feel like they need a 10th cup of coffee. So there's such a player with blood sugars and how we eat our carbohydrates. So my biggest takeaway when it comes to this macronutrients of carb is know they have the biggest impact on your blood sugar. You can't eat them all day, every day. You need to bundle them with that protein, eating the protein first. But no matter what, do the best you can more often than not to not eat naked carbs. Naked carbs would be running out the door with a banana. Better off would be a handful of nuts than eating the banana. Or, being too focused on calories. So you're avoiding healthy fats, which help with digestion, help with the digestion of fat soluble vitamins, but also help with satiety, gut health, and so much more. So carb threshold, we all have a unique level. As a type 1 diabetic for 33 years who just has a passion for food as medicine and managing blood sugars, I have identified for myself, and what works for me does not mean it'll work for you, but I have identified my first meal of the day needs to be low fat and low carb and more high protein. So I will have chicken sausages with 1 egg and some arugula. If I had that same meal for lunch or dinner, I would be adding a lot more carbohydrate and healthy fats to it. I'd be dumping on the olive oil. But when I have too many carbs or fat in my first meal, I will have blood sugars that sit at 140 and won't budge down when I try to correct it with my insulin pump. And research has shown women who have high carb and high fat breakfasts tend to have higher blood sugars at lunch than men. As women, we make babies, we're different. Our hormones work differently, but our macros in the morning can be very different. But try out what you're eating, adjust those portions of food to see how you can feel better, or watch data on your CGM or this, that, and the other. With every meal, just think the palm-sized portion of protein, make sure you have some healthy fat and some carbohydrates with fiber. There's a variety of carbohydrates we can eat. The more fiber in our carbohydrates, the better overall. Let's see, I'm coming to the home stretch. This is one of my handouts I'm going to give you. It helps break down the difference between protein, carbohydrates, and fat. It's a 2-pager. It's just helpful to help bring this message home. And then I have this awesome template. It's from a master class I used to run in 2020. And it kind of just says, how should you set up your breakfast, lunch, and dinner? So I'm going to give you guys these resources after today's recording. If for some reason you're just watching this on my YouTube, just send me an email. Moving on, cleanse with Cal. I just put this here too, because if I find my blood sugars are trending high for a while, I will do a cleanse, and I try to do a cleanse 3 times a year. But again, if your liver is happy and running well, it will support better blood sugar control. And when I do my cleanse, I do see a big wave of insulin sensitivity. So if you're looking for a tool, I've given a few here. There's one as well, is my cleanse with Cal. I'm going to run this as my next group, or excuse me, let me reword that. My next group for cleanse with Cal will be the day after Labor Day. So that'll be September 5th. Last but not least, exercise. So I just had a workout class here at 10:30 in the morning. And I was telling those who are in my class, I was like, it's a wonderful time, a very hard time for many schedules, but a wonderful time to exercise. And it's a wonderful time. It's ideal to exercise before a meal. So therefore your muscles are warm. They've used up some glycogen and glucose in your blood system. You're working out typically fasted. So if you're a type 1 diabetic, you don't have much insulin on board from food. And then you come into a mealtime where your muscles are very sensitive to insulin and you can tolerate carbohydrates better. You will tolerate less of movement from your blood sugar from start to finish of a meal. But exercise is so important. I mentioned one tactic is make sure you're really exercising at least every other day. Strength training is so helpful for blood sugar management. It's far better than those marathon run ideas. If you're a marathon runner, I applaud. No shame in that, but do make sure you're really maintaining your muscle mass. We lose muscle after the age of 30. Strength training is very beneficial for our bones, especially if our estrogen is starting to drop with age. Bone health is so important, but strength training is so helpful for blood sugar management. Overall. So other things with exercises is I can't fail to mention the magic of walking. Walking is medicine for blood sugar. And I was telling a client this morning who was a type 1 mom of 3, and she's like, man, when do you take your insulin before meals? And I was like, so many times I'm too busy. I will take it as I'm sitting down to eat. But I know that my blood sugar is rising and I have to, therefore, I don't have to, but I tend to, because I'm watching my blood sugar rise, I will go for a brisk walk. A brisk walk can catch a rising blood sugar like magic. Walking is so helpful for mental health. It's so helpful for cortisol. It's so helpful for blood sugar management. So make sure you're walking enough, moving hourly. If you sit for over an hour, your blood gets static. Static blood is insulin resistance. And hopefully I'm using words that are easy to digest, but certainly ask questions here coming up. I don't think I have anything else to say on exercise, but certainly just fall in love with something you like to do. For me, that's strength training, my walking, and of course, pickleball. Maybe you're laughing as I say that too, because it's just so fun. I do want to mention just a short case study. I know I talked about my client, Sally, in her testimonial, but we have 3 friends here. They're going to brunch and they're all wearing CGMs. They're like, hey girl, let's go to brunch. Let's all see what we're going to eat. Let's see what our blood sugars do. We have Sally showing up and she's eating a meal that I know that I would tend to need for my biology, for myself. And Sally got an omelet. She got an omelet with some veggies, a side of lean protein of turkey bacon that doesn't have nitrates, sulfates, and all those chemicals. It was just a very basic turkey bacon that was simple ingredients. And then we have Jane. She had the turkey bacon as well, but she also paired it with oatmeal. And you know what Jane did? She ate the bacon first. She ate her protein first to help protect those blood sugar. And Linda, she's like, girls, I'm focused on calories. I'm gonna eat the lowest calorie breakfast we got here. And she had some naked carbs. She had the fruit and she had oatmeal with nothing in it. So what do you think happened to their blood sugar? Did we have a bunny hill with Sally? Did we have a green diamond here with Jane? And then do we have a black diamond with Linda? Let's find out. Something like that. So these codes, these numbers here, don't read too far into that. That's just a score that my CGM program provides people because I don't want people to isolate too much on a specific blood sugar. But you will see Sally here had a very nice, gentle movement from her food. And our blood sugar should not be a perfect flat line. It is unrealistic to expect blood sugars to be a flat line 24/7, but it shouldn't, because we need insulin production. We need a wave of insulin to shuffle glucose into our cells. So I just want to clarify that. But we had a nice gentle movement with Sally's omelet. Jane's looked a little better. She had a spike and then she had another little spike later. The way our food digests is food science. Our protein will digest slower than our carbohydrate. Fat will digest slower than all the above. So if you eat something that's super high fat, if you're the Italians getting that piece of toast with 7 tablespoons of olive oil and 1 piece of toast and licking the plate, your blood sugars will dribble a little higher for 7 to 14 hours, depending how much fat is provided in that one sitting. But that's why you might be seeing this movement here. It could be the protein from that oatmeal. So we had an oatmeal blood sugar movement because oatmeal is highest in carbohydrates. Carbohydrates have the biggest impact on food, on our blood sugar. And then we had Linda, and her meal had oatmeal, and then she had fruit. There's some fiber there to help protect her, but it wasn't enough. She had a big blood sugar spike. And there's a lot of other things going on here besides what they ate. Food is just one slice of the pie. Maybe Sally slept the best and she hydrated and she went on a walk before they met. There's so many things we can continue to analyze, and what we analyze is unique to us. I had high blood sugars all week and I was like, man, what is going on? I actually was trying quite hard on making my blood sugars pretty good this week, as I tend to, but I was really frustrated. I couldn't get my blood sugars down this week. And I was like, what's going on? Yesterday was the last day of summer for my children and I had the day off with them, give or take, took them to the pool. By the time I got to the pool, I started losing my voice and I was like, I'm sick. I have a sickness coming on. I may not feel it, but my immune system does and my blood sugar shows it. So there's a lot of things we can continue to analyze. But I thought this was a good case study to kind of walk you through everyday life of what's going on. Benefits of blood sugar balance, short and long term. Obvious might be related to the symptoms I laid out for us to kick off, but also long term, improved metabolism, better weight management, better sex hormone balance, better heart health, mental health, dementia health, or excuse me, lack of. Reduced inflammation, better looking skin, better energy, vibrancy, vitality, and so much more. Overall, in closing, and I will open us up for Q&A, blood sugar control is a complex process and requires a holistic approach. We can't just focus on exercising routinely, pushing too hard, eating too perfect, or taking medication. There's a lot more involved. And I know we all know that, but sometimes it might not be as easy to identify what are the things we can focus on. And maybe that comes down to my 5 pillars: gut health, rest, analyze what's unique to you, have an eye on your carbohydrates, protein, and fat needs. And lastly, exercise. Find something you love that brings you joy, that works well for your blood sugar control. One thing I didn't mention on that slide, and I'll plug it in right here, is I love Orange Theory. I recommend them. I think it's a great business. I think it's a great workout. And I was doing that almost every day in 2020. It was somewhat my mental health medicine. But every time I worked out, I had some really big spikes, really big blood sugar swings. And while I got the endorphins and I felt great, and I will go back and do those workouts again, it's not something I'm doing every day because I had to babysit my blood sugars too much. And therefore, I've come to things that are more gentle, like strength training on a yoga mat, or yoga sculpt, which is so forth, and my walking and pickleball. So with exercise, find what works for you uniquely and what you love. Overall, don't underestimate the healing powers of doing holistic self-care things and tuning into your unique needs. I will open it now up for Q&A. If anyone wants to give me a question, I will. I just have some resources here of things I mentioned, but I will bring my face back. I want to see if anyone wants to unmute themselves, ask me anything specifically, an opportunity to get some laser coaching. Yeah, it looks like Michelle's got a question.
Yep. So, hi, Kelly. I am going to be traveling for work quite a bit in the next couple of weeks, and I want to do something to support my immunity as best as I can.
Yeah.
I know that keeping your blood sugars level supports that because as your blood sugars are, really high, your body is working harder to deal with that and less on your immunity. But do you have any tips or supplements you love or anything that I can do to really, knowing that I'm going to be exposed to all these people in all these places, really super support my immunity?
Yeah. A few lifestyle things I would do is support your sleep. So when I travel, I'm very sensitive. I'm a fragile sleeper. So I will bring melatonin. I will bring an eye mask, earplugs. I'll bring the works. I'll even bring sleepy time tea, and I'll try to make a cup of that before I go to bed in a hotel. For immunity, just intentional practices. Think of how you can support blood sugars on that plane or in the airport before and after, and bring along your Mary Poppins Plan B foods. I always have my Plan B foods. Plan A is like, oh, I think I'm going to eat this. The next thing you know, the flight is delayed and I'm rushing to the next one, or this, that, and the other. My Plan B foods often tend to be some quality jerky. I really like Epic bars. The chicken sriracha is my go-to. I always bring myself good chocolate. I will have cravings. We tend to have cravings. It's stressful in travel. I'll always bring HU chocolate, really healthy. And that'll prevent me from wanting to overeat carbs or prevent me from wanting to purchase something that might not work for me. And then I always bring something portable like carrots. They travel well, or apples or pears. And then immunity wise, there's a handful of supplements you can take, definitely increasing your vitamin D, increasing your probiotic. I'll tell clients double your probiotic, because your gut, your immunity lines the gut lining. So I'll make sure gut health is in shape. And you can use things like berberine. Berberine can be utilized for vacation, because you might have more drinks, you might eat more processed, you might eat more sugar, but it also has an immune element to it too. So those are the first things that are coming to mind. I felt pretty sick yesterday. I was like, I'm not canceling this webinar. I've sent people 400 reminders. Sorry about that, everybody. But I have this product by Boiron, Boiron, and it's called Oscascalium. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but I'll put that in my meeting notes. It works like magic for when I'm sick and my blood sugars go high. I literally took that, and within 30 minutes, and this is not the first time I've been sick, my blood sugars just came back to normal. But I didn't know for days leading up that I was sick until my voice showed it. But I take this Oscascalium, and I always think of it as a dead plant, bringing my blood sugars back to beautiful life. And it had happened to me before when I've had the flu. I even took this Oscascalium when I've had COVID, and it's helped me with those high blood sugars from being sick. So I will proactively bring Oscascalium with me. I'll double up my probiotic. I'll make sure I support my sleep and control those bookend meals in travel.
Got it.
Great question. And I'll try to
Thank you.
fast. If I'm switching time zones, I will try to fast a little more and adjust to the new time zone.
Bless
Awesome.
you.
Does anyone else
Thanks.
have questions? I think I saw Polly unmute. Polly, thank you for joining. If you have a question, let me know. You can put it in chat or mention it. If not, no worries.
I apologize. I did not know that I was unmuted. Sorry, you just heard me
I'm fueling
sneeze.
you. I'm giving you the stage.
I actually do have a question for you. My husband was just diagnosed as type 2 diabetic
Yeah.
like 3 days ago. So we are making some adjustments in our, we have to go grocery shopping tonight and, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. Just curious, because Google is overwhelming. Do you have a suggestion of where to go for kind of getting started recipes and lists of good foods, bad foods, that kind of thing? He does have a nutritionist that he's working with, but not for another 2 weeks. He couldn't get an appointment.
Gotcha. Good. The biggest takeaway is shop the perimeter. The fewer the ingredients, the better. List of foods. I'm jogging my memory. I'm about to publish an ebook for simple carpool nights for healthy bites. For each meal, I do have an ebook on smoothies out that can be helpful. And then in my membership, if it's something you want to consider, I do give people access to this program called Eat Love. And Eat Love, I would get your husband's height, weight, activity. I'd write him a nutrition prescription, and then he would get fueled a meal plan weekly,
Okay.
a brand new meal plan every week. So it's a nutrition prescription. I can cater it to be gluten-free, avoid mushrooms or whatever he doesn't like. But it's a wonderful tool that I offer clients in my membership members. My membership's the Sweet Rebel Tribe, and I will be promoting that in my Sunday newsletter coming up this weekend. So more information on that. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of drawing a blank other than what's right in front of me right now. Sometimes you can't see outside of your frame. But keep things simple. Super simple. Maybe even like I identified my best blood sugar control by starting with a paleo template. So I followed a paleo diet and then started to tinker, and I love beans. I eat beans every day now. I can eat a little bit of dairy, but paleo is a very whole food template that might be a quick answer for you not to get lost on Google.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's definitely helpful. Yeah. And what your the membership that you're talking about, can you just tell me what the pricing is and what that looks like?
Yeah.
Sell it to us, Kelly. You've just given us great information. Sell it.
Well, this is going to live on my YouTube channel, this recording today, and it is $99 a month. And I will send a sale price for the rest of the year for anyone who watches or listens to this. So I'll put that in the email so I'm not recorded forever.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
I got you, Polly, and your husband.
All right. Okay, very good.
Everyone who gets the recording.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And with my, sorry, one thing I didn't mention, with my membership, every Wednesday you get an email, a nutrition message related to some theme for the month. For August, we're focusing on routines. We're going back to school. So you get a Wednesday email and then a list of resources. The resources are an article that's less than 5 minutes, a recipe, a product highlight, and a few other items. And then twice a month we have coffee with Kel, and it's a group call just like this conversation. It's a Q&A. Tell me what's going on. I can answer questions, and that's twice a month. So you get 2 group coaching meetings, this Eat Love software that helps curate meal plans for you, a weekly message from me, and just a great community too.
That's great. And just ballpark, how many people are in the group when you do the group meetings?
You would be surprised. In my membership, I have like 50 people right now, but on the group calls, it might be 12, it might be 3.
Okay, so it's
And
a-
I've
so-
just
okay.
ramped up the coffee with Kel
Sure.
as well.
Okay, good. Thanks so much. Appreciate everything.
And one thing maybe anyone else listening to, I know some of the people still listening have done it with me, but for people who have newly high blood sugars, or you've had this type 1 diabetes game for a long time, the Cleanse with Kel program is so helpful. It's just a reset on insulin resistance, but it also helps reset taste, simple meals. It comes with 14 days of meals and recipes, a wellness app, daily tips to drink your water. And then it comes with product. I have an empty box behind me as a demo. It comes with 14 packets of vitamins that help with the 3 phases of detox. And it comes with collagen-based protein powder for a smoothie every day. So the Cleanse with Kel might be a great opportunity for your husband as well, or anyone on this call. I'm very passionate about the program. I do it routinely myself, but I love what it does for people in such a short amount of time. It's a real food program. So it has a paleo template. So there's just no grains, no sugar, no dairy is the recipes. And you eat food. You're not just having smoothies. You're eating real food, catering to satiety and hunger, but you have 2 packets of vitamins a day and 2 packets of protein powder. But I often put those proteins together and have 1 shake to simplify.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
I have a question. I know it doesn't seem like this is your focus at all, but in any of your guides, do you address vegetarian diets?
Yep. I do have vegetarian options, including Cleanse with Kel. There is a vegetarian version. So it has the collagen, but then we have a pea protein powder version too. Yeah.
Nice.
And meal plan wise, I do have a vegetarian meal plan, but I also have a pescatarian meal plan too. You bet.
Thank
Eat as
you.
close to the farm as possible. No matter what. Applauding all the color, all the fiber, all the things. Well, everyone, we're coming up on 1 o'clock. If you have lingering questions or if you're watching the recording, feel free to email me. And I can even cater those into my membership weekly emails. But thank you for being here with me. It's good to see familiar faces and new. And I hope you guys learned something. And please give me feedback. I'd love to know what you thought of today's presentation. Was it too much information? Was it not enough? XYZ. Give it to me. Thank you. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, Kel.
Bye.
Bye.